Previously on Balikbayan Not Missionary. Halika dito. Come here. Galing Bata after school program actually got offers to go into more full-time work. I still remembered I had made this commitment back in 2014 to come back. But here were these nice looking offers coming my way. It was a little more difficult remembering what that mud felt like. Hey, can you turn me up a little bit?
Don't need to be a star, I'll just stay down to earth. Blurred shaded skin, my body a garden of words. Proses for roses, poetry is birth. From deep roots, yet a green shoot on elder shoulders. So a soul into a woman that becomes a man.
And so I had to reevaluate my life decisions, my life trajectory, where I would be going with my 20s. And I started to think, oh, maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. Maybe I can just take one of these more full-time offers and I don't really have to go back to the Philippines. Maybe it was just that I was high off of emotion. Maybe just like all these other college students that go to things like this or to these huge conferences that have these altar call experiences that challenge people to make a commitment to serve wherever, however, whatever. Maybe I was just one of those people. And I knew people who had also made similar commitments, but didn't actually go through with it, that didn't go and serve where they said they would. And that's not really a knock on them, but there's a precedent for people just not doing these things. They don't have to feel super guilty about it. I had to ask myself, is this really what I'm supposed to do? I came to my faith and I really had to start asking, is this what I'm supposed to do? Am I supposed to go back to the Philippines? Like, these other things seem kind of nice and I can see myself doing them. Maybe I can just do something here and still be happy and still feel some kind of fulfillment. So what do I do with this? What's more, at this point in my faith journey, I'd really been dealing with things like disillusionment and frustration with American Christianity, particularly evangelicalism, because I'd been learning in college about all these things about colonialism and Western hegemony. But then you had actual contemporary issues like the horrible evangelical responses to both Black Lives Matter and the 2016 election that saw 80% of evangelicals vote for Donald Trump.
2 Corinthians, right? 2 Corinthians.
All of these things just made it really difficult for me to connect with my faith and feel like this Jesus I had been taught about, that my mom had introduced to me at 5 years old, now all of a sudden was really hard to see. I'm dealing with these sort of existential questions of where do I spend the next few years of my life? What kind of life should I be living? And what did I even believe in as a Christian, if I could even call myself that or identify myself as that? And so at this time, mid 2017, I have all these questions swirling around in my head, and I decide to drive to one of my favorite spots for these kind of existential crises moments, the Berkeley Marina. It's a beautiful place. You can see the San Francisco skyline, you can see the bay, and you can see the Golden Gate Bridge and the horizon where the sky meets the ocean just beyond that. This was just another one of those times where I felt like I needed some kind of clarity. At the time, this was when the movie Moana came out. I think I've already referenced the parallelism in my life and the Moana movie, especially the first act of the movie. The movie had just come out at the time, and I remember hearing a bit of the song How Far I'll Go at work. Even just from the first line of hearing it, I thought, wait, what? This is my life. There is something here for me. But I didn't finish the song at the time because I was just hearing it in passing. I suddenly remembered that song. Here I am at the Berkeley Marina on a Saturday morning. The sun is shining. It's a beautiful day. One of those very few days, especially in the summer, where there's no cloud in the sky. You can see the San Francisco skyline perfectly. You can see the horizon clear as day, literally. And I'm looking at this beautiful view. Clear skies, beautiful ocean. There were even people in boats just sailing, and I could see the Golden Gate Bridge and the horizon beyond, with, of course, the Philippines somewhere there. I'm listening to the lyrics of How Far I'll Go by Lin-Manuel Miranda, the great Lin-Manuel Miranda, and I just start bawling. I'm crying. So much of the song's lyrics spoke to me. The song was really expressing Moana's feelings and reflections that the life she was living was not bad. It was okay. Like, it was pretty good, and she could see herself filling her role in this place, which was how I felt working these 2 jobs, having these job offers, and now saying, oh, maybe I could just do these things. I could be happy just continuing to do what I'm doing. And yet, she said, as great as this all is, I still hear this voice saying, come find me. That line, come find me, is how I heard Halika dito, how I heard come over here. It felt like this Jesus that I had believed in, that I said I would believe in starting from 5 years old because of my mom, all the way through my teens and now my 20s, this same Jesus was still there. Despite all of the brokenness, the shortcomings, the frustrations, despite all of these crazy things, this Jesus was still there. But he was still back in the mud. He was still back with my people. But he was saying, halika dito, come over here, come find me. That was what I felt like I needed to hear. As great as these other things were, something out there was still calling to me. And I could hear it just in my innermost parts of myself. I could still hear halika dito. There was no way I could forget the mud because that voice was calling me to come back to it. And so after that, that was it. That was that moment, I think, for me that I really needed to get clarity and guidance. Ironically, it happened right when I was looking for it. And I just decided, you know what? I'm not going to take these job offers. I have to go back. I want to go back. And I want to see what's over there, where this voice of halika dito is calling me to. What's ironic is that, you know, and I think in a lot of, especially if you're in the evangelical world, you go to these conferences, these mission trips, whatever, and there's a message of go over there, go to the unreached, the unsaved, go to the lost, go there and save them, bring them the gospel, bring them your white privilege, bring them your white man's burden and save them. In Tagalog, we would say, pumunta ka dun. Go over there. That's the sort of stereotypical evangelical message I grew up hearing. But in this moment, it was something totally different. I wasn't hearing pumunta ka doon. I wasn't hearing go over there. What I felt like I heard was halika dito, come over here. I felt like Jesus, God, some kind of higher power, inner voice was telling me, halika dito, come here, find me in the Philippines, find me in the mud among your people, halika dito. And so while it felt like it had become so hard to find this Jesus that I had been believing in, it had become so hard to find him in America because of all these crazy things going on and because of the global realities that keep my privileged bubble wealthy and places like Letre Malabon or Riverside, Quezon City poor and marginalized and exploited. Despite all of those things, I felt like in this moment I was hearing halika dito, come find me here. And so while I couldn't find him where I was, maybe I would find him over in the mud. I started my joining process with the NGO I work for, Servants to Asia's Urban Poor, and started the official process of actually moving over here. All of this actually ended up taking me another year. And so a side note for anyone who is considering moving overseas, especially people who want to do more community development, humanitarian, even religious type based work, what I was told by people from Servants is that the process for someone who makes the commitment to live more long term or just for at least a few years overseas, the process for actually making that move on average is about 4 years. Ironically, that was exactly how long it took for me from 2014 to making that commitment to come over here to 2018 to when I actually moved in December of that year. I think as much as, again, these big ministry complexes and conferences try to make it as like, oh, it's this cool movie worthy moment where you just give up everything you have all of a sudden and you go the next day. You know, the reality is it's not like that. It takes a while. It takes a while to get your finances in order. It takes a while to get your papers, to get visas. Thankfully for me, I applied for dual citizenship and I got my Philippine passport. But all these things take a while. And you also need to go through, I think, the necessary emotional, mental, spiritual preparation to really make it a worthwhile move or a sustainable move that you can commit to. I encourage anyone, if you're thinking about things like this, which I would love to talk about and encourage, also remember to be patient and give yourself at least about 4 years to make the move. Looking back at my time in those 4 years, I really see how I was growing up as a person. I was being prepared to make this big move mentally and socially. And I got to do some things that I enjoyed. I got to really get into my music in the in-between. And I got my first mixtape done, Huwag Kalimutan, which you can check out here. Also include in the description below. And so, yeah, that is the story. From the mud to halika dito to now being a balikbayan not missionary. This is how I ended up here in Riverside, Quezon City, Metro Manila, Philippines. So for me to just wrap up what balikbayan means to me, aside from all the things I've already shared, the most meaningful definition I have, the most meaningful meaning I have of balikbayan is that it just simply means to come back and be with my people. To be with my Kababayans, especially those in the mud. Even if I can't do anything about it, even if I can't change it, the very least, that one can do as a balikbayan is to simply be in the mud with our people. And so, yeah, finally, I feel like I got the prologue to my living here in the Philippines done. It was obviously a very meaningful process for me. I mean, it took 25 years, the first quarter of my life, to make this decision and be here. And so I wanted to do it some justice in sharing about my family story, starting with my Lola, and then my story growing up in the burbs of California, then being college educated in Berkeley, having an immersion experience here in Manila, and finally making the jump, finally making the decision to come over here. I wanted to share about these key moments and phrases and images that really helped make this decision. Really what my goal is in this vlog series is to document my life out here, which I know I haven't been doing a great job. I mean, I'm already 4 years into this thing and one pandemic, and I'm just now really sharing about what it's been like over here. But I want to do this for documentation purposes, but I also really want to do it as providing a resource for especially Filipino Americans, any people in diaspora looking for ways to reconnect to where their families are from, to reconnect to their motherland, especially those feeling like America as it is, America with the triple K really isn't doing it for us. So what are other ways we can identify being in diaspora? And I want to provide one way that we can reconnect, reclaim, and remember where we're from, where our families are from, and where our people still are. To end, I just really want to pay tribute to a role model I have as a balikbayan. His name is Amado Canham Rodriguez, and he, like me, came back around circa, I think it was 2018, 2019. And he came to work with indigenous people groups, working to advocate for land rights for those IP indigenous people groups. When the COVID pandemic really hit in 2020, obviously medical facilities weren't as available as they were, even less so out in the more provincial areas. I believe he was working in Mindanao, in a more remote area. And Amado had contracted a sickness, and because he was not able to receive the proper medical attention in time, he actually passed away. He's even younger than I am. He was in his early to mid 20s, I believe. Looking at his life as someone who came back, who also came back and did it to the extent that he wanted to practice solidarity with our people and serve them to the point that he actually gave up his own life. That to me is a balikbayan, not a missionary. I hope that I can live my life as inspired by his story, and I hope that more people can think about what does it mean to come back here. And I want to share more about my thoughts on that and experiences about what it means to be here. Thank you very much to all of you who have taken the time to watch this episode, who have been watching all 5 parts of this episode, Balikbayan. And for those of you who like, comment, subscribe, click the notification bell so you know that when the next episode comes out, which will be soon, you'll get to hear more about what your favorite Balikbayan Not Missionary has to say. And so with all of that to say, Ingat, take care, salamat, thank you, and your favorite Balikbayan Not Missionary will see you next time.
Don't need to be a star, I'll just stay down to earth. Blurred shaded skin, my body a god in the words.
Iyak talaga naman.
From deep roots, yeah, the green shoot.